Hi, I'm Donna Maria from IndieBusinessBlog.com, and you are looking at my Twitter page at Twitter.com. Today, in this screencast, I'm going to share with you something new on Twitter. It's called Twitter Lists. And Twitter Lists lets you set up lists on Twitter that make it easy for you to follow topics that are of interest to you and people that are of interest to you. I'm going to show you how to set up your Twitter lists. I'm going to show you how to follow other Twitter lists that are of interest to you. So let's get started. Up here on the right hand side of my Twitter page, we see all the information that's always been there. My name, my location, my web, my bio. We also have an indication of how many people I'm following and how many followers I have. But there's something new here. This number indicates how many lists I have been added to. So if we click on that, what you'll be able to see is a list that displays how many lists I've been added to and also what those lists are. So you can kind of look there and see I've been added to a lot of small business lists. There's a list for my sorority and some crafty handmade entrepreneur lists and beauty lists, of course, and that's pretty cool. But let's just go back and keep going down the page, and we see the number of tweets I've entered. There's my favorites link, and then underneath that we have lists that I have created. I've created a list for Charlotte because that's where I live and I like to follow the Twitter activity in my own backyard. And of course I've also created a list for IBN members. IBN is the trade organization that I founded in 2000. And so let's go ahead and click on that and see what IBN members are doing this morning. If you click on the list, you'll see all the people that I've added to the list. These are my members. So I love to come to this list several times throughout the day to see what my members are doing, and you can see all the way down what's happening this morning with members of IBN. Now, I created this list the other day, and it has all these people on it because they're members of IBN. So let's look up here in the right hand corner and see what we can do with this list. The first thing, of course, we could do if we wanted to is we could delete it, but I'm not going to do that, but I just wanted you to see that it was possible. So we're going to cancel that action. The other thing we could do is we could edit the list and give it a different name. And you can see I've given it IBN members as the name. And I'm not going to change that, but I want you to see that if you wanted to change your list name, you could do it right here and then save it. The other thing you can do while you're in this window is you can make your list public or you can change it to private. Are you sure switching your list from public to private will remove all of its subscribers? That means that other people can't follow the list. Why? Because you want it to be private. So I'm going to go back and click public because I want this list to be public, but I want you to keep that private icon in mind because we're going to address that in just a few minutes. So I'm going to keep the list public, and there we go. And then I want you to go up here into the top browser window, and I want you to see what it says. It says twitter.com/indiebusiness/IBN members. That is the domain name for this list. That means that I can send this list to anybody. I can send it by email, I can post it on Twitter, and I can say, hey, if you're interested in finding out what IBN members are doing, then follow this list. And that's a really cool feature. And what you can see over here on the right is that this list already has some followers. There are some people that are following this list. And that's no surprise because I've been tweeting it from time to let people know that this is a great way to follow what activities IBN members are involved in. And that's a really great feature that I like to share because I want people to know what my members are doing. So let's go back to my home page. I'm going to show you how to actually create a list from scratch. Over here on the right it says lists, and there's my list. So let's create a new list. And let's call this list Washington, D.C. because that's my hometown. I'm going to make it public, create the list. Now I'm going to add people to the list. This is what you do. All you do is you just find them on here. I'm going to go ahead and add someone that I know in Washington, D.C. We're going to search for her, and you'll see that her listing will come up here, and all I have to do to add her to my Washington, D.C. list is click on Washington, D.C., and it's done. The other way that you can add somebody on your Washington, D.C. list is you can just go directly to their Twitter page, and you can see up at the top here, this is e-commerce diva. You can click on that icon again, just like we did for the other person I added. Click on Washington, D.C., and she's added. So let's go back to the home page and let's take a look at my new Washington, D.C. list and see who's on the list. There it is, Indie Business / Washington, D.C. Click on it. And the two people I just added are there. Only one is showing up because the other one hasn't tweeted in the last several hours. But this person has, and you can see all of her tweets show up there. So that's a really cool way to create a new list. Now I'm going to go ahead and scroll to the top here, and it says View List Page. So let's view the list page. This will give you information about the list and allows you to manage it. Up in the right hand corner I can edit the list or I can delete the list. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it because I just created it for an example, and there it is, it's deleted. So let's go ahead and go to somebody's page who has created lists and see how we can follow their lists. Okay, we're going to go to Debbie Wiles' list, and we're going to see over here that she's got Washington, D.C. tweets. She's in Washington, D.C., so that makes sense. She follows people on a list. She's created a list for people in Washington, D.C., so let's click on it. And there it is right there. Now look up at the upper area, it says follow this list. So guess what? You can click that. And now I'm following the list. If I wanted to unfollow the list, I could unfollow the list. But let's go back to my home page before we do that. And let's take a look at what we see here now. We can see I'm following Debbie Wiles' Washington, D.C. lists. Look at that. It shows up on my list page. So if I click on that, then obviously I'll be able to see what those people are saying on that list. And that's a pretty cool feature. And if I click on View List Page, then I can also unfollow that list if I've decided I don't want to follow it anymore. Again, a wonderful collection of features here on Twitter. Now let's go ahead and create a new list and make it private. We're going to call this list Competitors, because you may want to follow your competitors on Twitter, but you may not want everyone to see that you're following your competitors on your Twitter page. So what you would do is make this list private and then go ahead and create it. And that way it doesn't show up on your list. Now look over here in the right hand corner. What you see is Indie Business / Competitors, and there's a little lock beside that. So when you log onto Twitter using your username and password and you go to my Twitter page, you'll be able to see all of my lists except for the ones that I've made private. And that's what that little lock indicates there. So let's go ahead and find somebody to add to the competitor list. We'll go ahead and add CNN, even though they're not a competitor. This is just for an example. So we'll go ahead and just click on them and add them to the competitor list. Go take a look back at the home page. Let's look at our competitor list, and there they are right there. And once again, if you want to change this list, you click on View List Page, go ahead and delete the list, and you're done. So that's an introduction to how to use Twitter lists. I'm sure this just scratches the surface because this is a very new feature that Twitter has just added. I'm going to continue to explore it, and I will be sharing with you the new information and new ways to use Twitter lists that I discover, so I can keep you up to date on the fun ways that I learn how to use this list. So thank you for joining, and have fun creating your Twitter list.